Now, as many of you know, there were two forestry expert reports that were put out in that report, and so Constable Luby and Alan Shaw and Albert Marshall decided to put the two together and in some senses watered down the Bancroft-Crosland report. But even that, even those recommendations are too much for some people. They're calling for the government not even to listen to those. We must not let that happen. We must take a stance. Those recommendations are the minimum for sustainable forestry for our children, and I'm becoming a grandfather in January of this year for our grandchildren as well. And then the third reason why I'm here is really what I would call, if you'll forgive me as a Baptist minister, a spiritual reason. Others might call it aesthetic or recreational. A recent study that was reported on the CBC called it psychological, that for our psychological health we need forests. Because it's conceivable, I don't know how, but it's conceivable in some ways, I guess, we could build sustainable economic forestry practices, but at the cost of the spiritual. We would have vast crops of monoculture trees harvested like fields of broccoli. And that, unfortunately, is what is happening now. In my lifetime alone, the old growth forests in this province have disappeared from over 25% of our forestry cover to just 1.08%. So unless we act, unless the government acts, your children, my children, your grandchildren, my grandchildren will never have that sense of rejuvenation of standing in the midst of an old growth Acadian forest, of knowing deep inside them that they were standing in the midst of something greater than they were. And that oddly, rather than feeling afraid, they felt a great sense of peace, knowing that they were part of nature, and that in nature's wholeness, they would find their own wholeness. And so, as Jamie mentioned, I closed with a Wendell Berry poem. Let me close this time with one from Gerard Manley Hopkins, who wrote at the height of the Industrial Revolution. And he wrote these words, a cry for all of us. What would the world be, he wrote, once bereft of wet and wildness? Let them be left. Oh, let them be left, wildness and wet. Long live the weeds and the wilderness yet. Thank you.